In the heart of Cleveland, where the roar of motorcycles echoes through the buildings and alleys, one man reigns supreme over the realm of minibikes. Meet Greg Castillo, the undisputed minibike king of Cleveland, Ohio. From a young age, Greg dreamt of owning a minibike. He had a frame, but nothing else. But dreams, as they often do, had to wait. It wasn't until young adulthood that Greg finally got his bike put together, and then another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, until his collection threatened to burst through the garage walls of Skidmark. But here's the thing, Greg just doesn't collect mini bikes, he resurrects them, he hunts them, he searches them out. At Skidmark Garage, a DIY motorcycle haven here in Cleveland, Ohio, Greg breathes new life into these vintage machines, ensuring every nut and bolt is period correct and perfect. From sourcing vintage wheels to restoring original engines, Greg's attention to detail is unparalleled. Each mini bike he builds feels as though it rolled straight out of a time machine. And for those of you who think mini bikes are mere toys, Greg has a surprise. Some of his creations house full-blown motorcycle engines demanding not just skill but sure audacity to ride them.
My name is Greg Castillo and I work at Skidmark Garage. I'm the only employee here and I help out the day-to-days and everyone that needs help with their bikes and clean up the place. Take out the garbage, and I build stupid stuff.
What is Skidmark Garage?
Oh, it's a community garage, so you buy a membership, kind of like a gym. You bring in your own bike, we give you all the tools, and we also teach. There's Steve Noble teaches carb classes, electrical classes, and welding classes. So anything is basically like all in one. If you don't know how to work on a bike, this is the place to come and bring your bike and just go at it.
How did this start? Like, what got you into it? Because you ride full-size motor. That's how I first met you, is riding big bikes. And then all of a sudden I start seeing you coming out with all this cool, unique, nobody else has it kind of shit. So how did this start?
So when I was a kid, the big thing was mini bikes and little box frames, little Briggs motors. The kid across the street, his dad was always messing with mini bikes. And always helping them out, and we'd ride two up, we're little, didn't know nothing, and just going anywhere you want, so it was kind of like, I didn't have a mini bike myself, so when I was old enough to, find one, or my dad couldn't say no, I'm living on my own, I'm just gonna start buying them and doing what I want with them, so. There's some really rare bikes in like the early 70s, there was like, I think 2,000 or 3,000 different manufacturers of mini bikes. So they were just kind of pumping them out because that was the craze. The 60s and 70s was the mini bike craze. And then like 74, it was over pretty much. Everyone was into Hondas, everyone was big dirt bikes. That was the thing. It kind of grew up. And then kind of the mini bikes went in the back of the barn where now I find them and I kind of revive them, Everyone wants to relive their youth. And the first one that I got, it was a Manco Trail Cat. And when I got it, it had like a very, very old antique, I think it was like a one-horse Briggs, like something like you would never have it on a mini bike because there was no power coming out of that thing,
right.
Like little one-horse. Then I started working at a hardware store and they had a pressure washer that the pump went bad, but the motor was good. I'm like, oh, what are you guys doing with that? And they're like, you can have it for 20 bucks. So I took the motor, got a clutch, chain off, put that thing together, and it was just a ripper. And I was like sold after that.
What are you working on over here? What is this guy?
This one has been stretched. It's a 1970 Z50 hardtail that I stretched 5 inches. And when I say I stretched it, the frame has been cut in the middle. You can see under the tank, not really great, but so the frame is cut. Then I took a pipe and I milled it down, so I made a slug that goes in this side and then this side. So it is welded all the way through. It's still hollow here, but this has been milled down to fit in here and here.
But you didn't butt end it and weld it. That thing has some integrity to it with that slug in it, right?
Right, so this has been just stretched. I kind of added this kind of metal here, just kind of for looks a little bit, but more for stability too. This motor is a 67, I think, Yamaha YCS1, so it's 180cc twin two-stroke. Had to make all these mounts, like the whole frame is like literally been cut to pieces and everything else.
Yeah, what about the down tube? That looks all custom.
So yeah, this actually is gonna go, there's 2 brackets that mount on here that go to here.
Okay.
So it's all, structurally sound. I don't think this thing's gonna flex at all, you know. This hole right here was stock, so I just kind of used it. And like I said, the other plate mounts are gonna mount to here and hold it in. So these are actually stainless steel. These are actually stock YCS1 pipes that have been welded short, you know, and so they'll go on either side out like that. So this one, the RCF Micro, you could buy it as a kit. You could buy the frame, the forks. You can get the bars taller or shorter. This is actually a newer mini bike, but it's got vintage wheels on it. You know, the seat I actually found at a swap meet. It's like a little, it's actually a passenger seat for like a Harley.
Oh, huh.
And I just put a board, you know, I did my own thing. The motor's a 79cc, I just painted it. It's a really cool, fun little bike. It doesn't really go super fast, but this is kind of indicative of like the vintage bikes. This is a...
This thing, dude, it has suspension.
So this is a 1969 Little Indian. And when I got it, the frame was trash. I mean, the whole front end was all bent and crooked and everything else. This was cut into like 10 different pieces. And then I had to weld it all back together and then put slugs in it and all that. This was, like I said, the motor, I kind of wanted to feature that motor. The motor, if you look at it, it's like the original. Yeah. So that's actually a 1963 Tecumseh, right? But that's the original patina, that's the original paint. And there was one of my buddies who actually got the frame from, brings me this motor and goes, hey, can you tune this up for me? I said, this thing runs great. What are you gonna do with it? He goes, oh, I'm gonna strip all the paint off it and paint it white. And I go, no, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're not. I said, I'll build you a white motor, you know, same, you know, everything real nice, but I need that motor. So we ended up trading, and I kind of wanted to showcase this motor, just because you never see like a blue original paint.
Oh,
you know,
that looks like it came right out of a rototiller and like you shoved it in
think
there.
it did. I think it came out of a rototiller. But the frame itself is a Little Indian. It's a 63 Tecumseh, like a 3.5 horse. The little gas tank here is off a little Olsen Rice. They make like a little, I think it's like 25cc little, you know, 3/4 horsepower little motor.
Yeah.
They put in generators, they put in like little plane things,
sure,
you know.
sure, yeah.
So I had this little tank, the seat, you know, it just kind of started coming together. One of the coolest things is, a lot of the bikes that I do, the wheels are magnesium. They're from a 58 or 59 Fox Go Boy racing go-karts. They're magnesium wheels. I like using them because they really look cool and they're really tough. And also the rear wheel, you can use like a split sprocket for, you know, changing gearing if you want, you know.
Wow.
So
there you get the actual size now, man. It's so tiny.
Do you want me to put it on a stand?
No, you're all right. This is great. I love it.
So one of the cool things, like I said, there's a split sprocket.
Oh yeah.
So that's basically, it was just anodized red, and I polished it here at the shop, you know. The little jack shaft, most of these mini bikes, I mean, they're so tiny. When you put a motor in it, either it's sticking way out and the clutch is gonna go out the side, or you're gonna have to do some kind of jack shaft. One of the coolest things I like doing is repurposing different pieces of metal that I find laying around. And this clutch cover that I made right here is actually a saw blade guard off of a table saw.
Oh, that's wicked.
This is like aluminum, that it was real long. So I bent it, cut it, and then I bolted it together and made a little clutch cover for it.
And it totally fits because it has that like Jetsons period correct kind of retro futurism.
Someone threw, it was a guard on a table saw and someone was throwing it out. I just liked how it was already cut and sectioned and all that stuff. Like I said, I bent it, I cut it, and I shaped it a little bit and made it like my own thing. Even like these are off of like freeway bars off of a
Harley,
you know, Honda or something like that. They were in the scrap pile. You know?
I love the tiny little kickstand.
yeah. But this was on display at the Crawford Museum when they had the Corvair display. And it was by the Stepside truck. And this thing runs, but you know, I haven't put gas in it in a while because it was actually in the museum for a while, and now it's just kind of sitting on the shelf. You know.
Oh, that's awesome. And then you got more. I love this other guy too. Look at all these guys.
Yeah.
So what's the story with this one?
So this one, believe it or not, it is vintage. and I'll just drag it over.
Yeah. Dang,
so this is a 1970 maybe Bonanza MB200. It's got the Fox Go Boy magnesium wheels that I painted blue. These are vintage, General tires, Carlisle slick in the back, because this one was kind of like my mini drag bike. This is a newer Predator motor, the 79cc, but then it's got a billet flywheel, flat slide carb, governor delete. I shaved down the head about 20 thousandths. Built my own exhaust for it. It's really tricked out. So the 3 horsepower is putting out about 7 horsepower, but it doesn't weigh nothing. That's the cool thing.
What's the little like retro, like Jetsons looking thing hanging out?
That's another cool thing. So a buddy of mine, he clears out old barns that they're going to tear down, and he goes in, he tears down the barns, but he boxes of stuff he'll take and whatever. So believe it or not, I turned it into a horn. But what it is a fire alarm. Oh. And I have, all right. So this is what this is. So it's a traveler alarm, right? It's a little traveler alarm. Just runs on a 9-volt battery, D-cell battery. So I actually wired this one up to like a kill switch. Yeah. So now that's just a mini bike horn. But these were meant to hang on the wall, and when a fire heated up the little switch in the bottom, it would do that noise. So now it's got a switch, just like a horn.
That's awesome.
So this one, and like I said, the Little Indian, made up in Michigan. This was a RUPPMAN that was made up in Michigan. And it was Troy RUPPMAN that had a company that was making these based off of the Little Indians. The only way you could tell the difference was the RUPPMANs, the top tube came to a point here. The Little Indians, the tube wrapped around into the thing. So like this looks kind of like a Little Indian. It's almost the same exact dimensions, but it's a RUPPMAN. The coolest thing is, if you look back here where it mounts the axle, it's a big washer. Not many of them lasted. It's called a RUPPMAN washer frame. So when I found this, I was at a swap meet last year, tractor show. Guy had it for $100, has the original seat on it. It didn't look like this. It was really beat up and everything else. Didn't have the motor. But I said, I'm gonna have this power. I want it all black. So I built a 3-horse black Tecumseh for this thing. And I was in the process of making that little bike there. And I told my buddies in California, I said, I'm looking for a West Bend 820. If you ever come across one, let me know. He messages me like a couple weeks later and goes, I've got 3, which ones do you want? And I go, I'll take this one, because it's the coolest. It looks like an upright, almost like a kind of Tecumseh motor, with the little velocity stack Tilson carb.
And the base plate is stock too? And all that?
Yeah. Wow. So it says West Bend.
Yeah.
So, and this was another thing that when I got it at the shop, it was all tarnished up. I polished it. We have a vapor blast cabinet where I vapor blasted some of this stuff that's just cast aluminum.
Yeah. Oh, it looks clean, man.
Yeah. Even the little exhaust, the gem exhaust, I polished that up. It was all tarnished and everything else. So for this output shaft, you have to have like an adapter, which I have, and then a clutch, and this is going to get a jack shaft plate that goes from chain back to the rear wheel. But this little, what doesn't look like much, this West Bend 820 puts out 12 horsepower, and it literally weighs like not even 5 pounds.
Look at the care. Look at the care that they had making like they would never make this now. No. Now this would be a stamped piece of plastic or so who knows what. Man.
Yeah. So this one, they call this. So this is one of the newer RCF micros, and this is, like I said, a newer frame, but the motor itself is called a Rookie 500, and they put them in like race go-karts, and they actually put out a lot of power for how tiny that thing is. It's like a glorified, chainsaw motor. Even this like exhaust here, which is just a cone. When I got it, it was all messed up. Some of the welds and everything else. So I cleaned it up as best as I could. Tried to, I vapor blasted, tried to polish some of it, but I didn't want it mirror. It's because I want some contrast between the real shiny chrome and dull chrome and this and that. The guy that I'm making it for wanted, some brown, some tan. I did the black wheels, it's gonna have the jack shaft. The one thing I'm working on right now is the is I'm fabbing up a disc brake for it, because right now these wheels don't have brakes in them. You can't really put a band brake on the clutch as to where it is. I probably could, but since I'm using a jack shaft, I was kind of thinking out of the box as far as like, oh, I'm gonna make a little disc brake on the jack shaft, because that's where power is at anyways. There's a guy that I know, Phil Anderson, who does custom interiors on like cars, and he made this little seat for me, and he just knocked it out of the park. I told him exactly what I want, what color I want, so match the grips and the foot pegs.
So do you have a full concept of this when you go into this thing, or does the bike kind of dictate where you're going after you start it?
So the guy sent me the bike, and it was powder coated yellow. He said, I need it stripped, I want it tan, I want a brown seat, but other than that, go and do whatever you want. So I came up with the whole, okay, it's gonna have black wheels, because you don't want to take away from everything else, a little black mount. You want to kind of accent the motor, you know. Everything else is gonna look really kind of clean. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use like black cables or steel cables or fine brown cables, you know, like that's all last minute stuff. But the whole concept was to just make it cool, make it work, make it functional, but really make it nice, you know?
Yeah, you're doing it. Mm-hmm. That's pretty awesome.
So one of the biggest manufacturers of mini bikes in California was Bonanza. And they made like I said, that gold one over there is the smallest one they made, the little gold one. That was the MB200 that only came with like a 2.5 Tecumseh on it, you know, or a little Briggs, you know. But this was a full-on race bike. This was the MX 1510, which came with the E-Code Hodaka Ace 100 motor, 5-speed. And this actually is what the stock exhaust looks. It should be black, but it's been all, you know, polished and everything else. 8-inch wheels, telescopic front end, you know. This was like the top of the line race bike back in the 60s, 70s. We always do the Piston Power Show at the IX Center, and it's, I don't know how many square feet that encompasses. The last couple years, you know, it's a gigantic, they made, you know, tanks in the IX Center. It's a gigantic airplane hangar. So when we do the show and you want to walk around, you know, so everyone the last couple of years, you see more and more mobility scooters at the Piston Power Show. Little 3-wheeled scooter, you know, but what's to stop me from customizing it? So that was the first one I did, the rat rod one. So the David Bradley hood, my buddy had it, and he was gonna make like a little sidecar thing out of it for his big motorcycle. And he has had it in his garage, and I just, patina-wise, I just left it alone, cleaned it up a little bit, but basically it's just a 3-wheeled mobility scooter. One of the cool things to kind of hide the neck, you know, Shriner's windshield. This is off of like an old, I think I have no idea, like I think it's a Ford, you know, rear view mirror.
Yeah.
But I put all the electronics in this little pipe tobacco box. There's your speed controller, your little light switch for the headlight, and then your, it tells you how much life you got left in the battery, and this is your forward and reverse. And this is an old horn from the 50s or 60s that has the same D-cell battery where you hit the button, you know. That's kind of where I got the idea for the other
things. The drink holder.
Yeah, so that was actually part of, like you could see on here, kind of oval shaped.
Yeah.
The hoods are David Bradley's that went on like rototillers, you know.
Oh yeah.
The motor was underneath here, and they had big wheels, and you could put any kind of attachment on the David Bradley to you know, like a plow or a sickle to cut the grass or anything. It's a farm equipment thing. But the bodies are so deco and so like cool shaped.
Yep.
They just work.
That is outside of the box, and I love it. Mm-hmm. All right. So before we leave Greg, he has one more thing that is not necessarily a mini bike, but it's a mini something, and we got to talk about it. You might have seen a glimpse of it in the last video from the DGR. So I think you know what I'm talking about.
Is it red?
Yes.
All right, I know where it is.
Should we go look at that?
Let's go look at it.
All right. All right, Greg, what is this?
Well, it was a toy that was on a carnival ride, you know, it just went in a circle. So it basically was just the body. There was no wheels, there was no motor, nothing. It was just a fiberglass big body. And Brian was pretty reluctant about me bringing it in here because he goes, it's not a motorcycle, and it's going to take up space. I said, well, I'm going to put a motorcycle motor in there, do something with it, make it cool. So a couple years ago, I had it just all apart. I had it cut the whole insides out, which it had like just bench seating in it for kids to sit in. And it, like I said, it was just a merry-go-round ride. I built a whole chassis for it out of an existing go-kart that I lengthened and widened and put bars on top to give it kind of that stance. The seat is actually a 64 Thunderbird I found on the marketplace. I thought it was cool. Black and leather, you know, just kind of works. But the coolest thing is the power plant. And I made the whole deck here out of just, went to go Home Depot and bought like, you know, furring strips.
That's awesome.
And just started making a whole thing for it. So the power plant, it's a TRX, I think like an 85, 6, something like that, Honda TRX 200. So it's a 5-speed with reverse. The whole jack shaft thing was kind of crazy. Like I wanted to use something with electric start. The fact that this motor had reverse was great because it's not like you can put your feet down and back this thing up if you're anywhere.
Right.
Then again, you can't just hook this motor up straight to a live axle.
No.
Where the chain comes out this side and you've got a 520 chain, now you're going to a 4E chain on this side. So there's pillow block bearings. There's all these, you know, like just tensioners to make it so the chain's not gonna pop off. It does have electric start. All the electrical stuff is in the Star Wars lunchbox in the front. All the lights work, everything works on it. It's just one of those, I wanted to do it. The shifter is actually just a big open end wrench down to this. There's like a whole linkage that, so the TRX 200 motor is semi-automatic, so there's no clutch. So you don't have to pull in a clutch, push a clutch, nothing. You just shift it. To get in reverse, I put a little bicycle lever that you pull in, right? And then you push it forward, and now you're in reverse. All the stuff from the dash on the four-wheeler, I left in here with the key, so everything all lights up. One of the local guys, his name's Stosh Peeler, he did all the super rat and all the lettering on this thing. Gold leaf, all the pinstripe exactly how I wanted. He did the pinstriping on the dash. And there's another guy, Chasten Brand, who's out of, I think, Georgia, who came up to the Skidmark Garage for a show or a weekend. I forget what, where it was some kind of party, I don't know. And I told him, he saw this thing, he's like, it's awesome. I said, yeah, I think it needs something like flames or something. He goes, oh, I could do that. So he painted the flames on the top and the flames on the side. He did a helmet for me. Super nice guy, but it just came at that little, okay, now it's finished, you know?
Yeah. Beyond his mechanical prowess, Greg is a cornerstone of the Skidmark Garage community. Whether you're a seasoned rider or a newbie, someone looking for help, Greg's always ready to lend a hand, share a tip, or inspire your next build. So if you ever find yourself in Cleveland and hear the distant hum of a mini bike, follow it. You might just meet Greg, the undisputed mini bike king of Cleveland, Ohio.